Let me start by saying this. Going back to 2011, when I was on the campus of McLean Hospital, I spent 3 months in an outpatient program where I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And one day I was sitting in a group therapy session called self-assessment. And sitting next to me was a young lady who had blood seeping through her arms. And that was the first time I heard about self-harming. And then there was another young lady sitting next to me who talked about taking her life the night before. And I couldn't believe I was having these conversations. And we all got up after. I went to Reebok's headquarters to go train. This was the year of the lockout. And they went back to work. One was a student, one was an insurance broker. And in that moment, standing in the parking lot, I saw 200, 300 cars out there. I said, oh my goodness, how many people are walking amongst us or living next to us, suffering in silence or suffering, and we have no clue. So at that time, I felt like we needed to have these conversations. We needed to put faces on these diagnoses and these conversations, and also voices, and make sure that we were pushing these conversations forward. Now, what Aaron Rodgers is talking about is interesting, right? Because when I first saw this, I was like, man, is this dude making an excuse about why he's not there? And when you listen to it, you know, it's like, oh, he's talking about mental health and mental fitness, because let's not get it twisted. There's two off seasons that he's having. There's a business off season with the Packers where he came out and other people came out and said, look, I am not happy here. Okay, I feel disrespected. So let's put that conversation on the side. Let's put it on the shelf. The other conversation, the mental health conversation, which is awesome. I'm glad that he brought it up, because we don't talk about it enough. Every time we cover the athlete, Naomi Osaka or any other athlete, the first thing we think about is physical, physical, physical. We don't talk about the thing that is 80% mental, and that's our mind. Right? So why don't we train our mind enough? Why don't we develop our brain if life in sport is 80% mental? So Aaron Rodgers is right. There's one side of the spectrum that is impairment, and on the other side of this spectrum, we're talking about performance. When we talk about mental health, we live on this side too much. We're talking about depression, anxiety, which is fine. There's almost 320 million Americans, and almost 100 have a diagnosis, live with something. So we dominate that side of the conversation. What about prevention? What about intervening early? Well, that's what my passion is about, is how do we shift the conversation to mental fitness? Aaron Rodgers in Hawaii taking his time off, because the NFL is, when they talk about performance, anytime you're in a performance-based business, it is a toxic environment. Every day it's about performance. What have you done for me lately? If you're not performing well, they're going to ask for you to take a pay cut. If you're not performing well, you may be cut. You may be the guy that's walking out that day with a garbage bag filled with all of your stuff that was in your locker. Not a box. They're not shipping it. You have a garbage bag or two. Clean out. We'll see you tomorrow. And then in the next hour, there's another guy wearing your jersey with your nameplate and replacing you in the locker room. So this conversation is needed, Wilds and Nick, because this is important. And what Aaron Rodgers is highlighting is the difference between impairment and performance, mental health and mental fitness. So it should be a conversation that we talk about more, because guys in all walks of life and women in all walks of life need to take time to really see where they're at spiritually. They need to see where they're at holistically. So hats off to Aaron Rodgers for starting this conversation.
No, I thought nearly everything Aaron said was great. The one part where he's like, the loudest guy isn't the smartest, I'm like, I totally disagree with that. But everything else I thought was really smart by him. And I think Brandon, he keyed in on something really important, which is not just these shows, in just regular life. If someone says, you know, I'm dealing with a mental health issue, we do, at least I, maybe not you because you've been, trained and you've studied in this area, but my mind does go to the extremes. It's like, oh, you're in crisis.
Right.
Like, what can we do? Right. Like, we do think about suicide. We do think about depression, clinical diagnosed depression. And what he said was nuanced and I thought really interesting, which is, he didn't say this part, but I'm going to add it for him. When we talk about an athlete injury, it's not, well, either you've torn your ACL or you're totally fine. we all the time with the body, it's like, no, I can still run, I can still play, but I feel like I tweaked a little something. Or I feel like I need, a little extra maintenance on my hamstring, something like that. And when we have these discussions about mental health, we don't ever talk about it in those terms. Like, no, I'm good. I'm not thinking about self-harm. I've never thought about suicide. I'm not depressed, but I am feeling a little extra anxious. Or I am, I'm wondering why I should be a little happier than I am. Why am I not? Let me, kind of dig into that. And I think it was, it took a certain type of bravery for Kevin Love a few years ago to say, listen, I'm dealing with depression. Took a certain type of bravery for Naomi Osaka to be like, you guys don't understand why these press conferences are so tough for me. This is a different type of thing from Aaron. It's not so much bravery as much as it is just helpful in moving the conversation to, he's not saying I'm depressed. He's saying, no, I just wanted to do a little tweaking. That's exactly right. I want to do a little maintenance.
Right. No, you're 100%. I love what Aaron Rodgers is doing. Like you said, you're pushing the conversation forward, right? New movements equals new language. The stigma around mental health, it's like debilitating. But if we start saying mental fitness, it changes how we approach it, how we talk about it. And I'm not trying to use this as an opportunity to talk about me or my company, but right now we have, over the month of July, we're going to have 100 pro athletes training here. We had Ja Morant come in yesterday. We'll have Anthony Edwards come in. We have the Shaquille O'Neal sons training here. That's on the basketball side. And I probably have a list of 20, 25 other NBA guys that will be training here in their offseason, on and off, a week here, a week there. And on the football side, we'll probably have so many guys. We've had Myles Garrett already here, Jarvis Juice Landry, Amari Rodgers, the rookie that just walked by my door here. So I say that because here we have mental health practitioners on site. Like, that's what we're doing, is pushing the conversation forward. Like, don't wait until it's too late. Don't wait until you're suffering. You need to be proactive right now, because when you talk about the stress and the pressure on all people, but specifically pro athletes, you better get ahead of it. So one of the things that we do here, Wiles, and I just want to throw it to you because I don't want to turn this into a House of Athlete thing, but on Wednesdays, like tomorrow, when Ja Morant come in here and Jarvis Juice Landry come in here and Leonard Fournette come in here, they can't do anything physical. It's all mental health. It's called Mental Fitness Day. So we have group therapy, that self-assessment group that I talk about, that I just talked about. You'll see a group of guys doing that, the college athletes, the pro athletes, and then general population and focus groups. We have recovery and we have Vinyasa Flow. If you want to go pound some weights and go run, you can go find another facility. But it's important as people and athletes to make sure you're proactive and you don't just live in a space of health and wellness, but also just performance, because it's important to be on both sides of the spectrum. So it's an important conversation. I'm glad that Aaron Rodgers is pushing the conversation forward.
All right, and I had a question for you, Brandon. How do you think that ends up manifesting in everyone's professional world, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a dentist, whatever you're doing? I think the mental health, mental fitness, I, maybe mistakenly, always put those in sort of two different categories. And when I think mental fitness, I may have an arcane view of it, of like, all right, there's flashing lights and you've got to hit them. But like, how do you see mental fitness bringing people to the next level, whether you're an athlete or
peak performance,
whether you're an orthodontist?
Peak performance. Let's just talk about the pros, right? Like, it was up until 3 years ago where it was mandated that every organization, every team had a clinician on staff. Like, it was at their discretion. Some teams had them, some teams don't. They made that change a couple years ago, which is interesting to me because we keep saying this. This is a thing that we've been saying for years. 80% of the game is mental. 80% of life is mental. So why don't we train our mind more? Why don't we train our brain more? So if you want a better Aaron Rodgers, if you want him to perform well, then you want him looking at where he's at spiritually. You want him to be sitting down and meditating and figuring out how healthy his brain is, or when he's stressed, talking to somebody. So it's all about peak performance, whether you're a pro athlete or you're a Kevin Wildes, a super producer who does phenomenal things and produce so many amazing shows. It doesn't matter. It's about peak performance. Like, you want to be better.
And Wildes, you're interested in, how it affects orthodontists. Brandon said Myles Garrett's there. Just have him come in and bring some of the guys he was playing basketball with and ask him. Like, hey, how does this help you in your greater Cleveland Dental Basketball League? And then we'll find out that way.
Right.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.